Welcome to the Red Book podcast, the third episode. And today we're excited because it's the big reveal. What are we revealing? The 2026 Red Book. I have the first copy, press proof from the printer. And so without further ado, I'm going to hold it up. Mr. Garrett, the
It's awesome.
editor of the book, hasn't
It,
even seen it in hand. I just got this yesterday. So,
yeah.
Jeff, I can't tell you how much work we've put into this book. That's why we're doing these podcasts. We're so excited about them. And the book, I don't know what to expect when I saw it, but I was very nervous, like an expectant parent. And I'm not disappointed. Nobody getting the 2026 Red Book is going to think this looks like previous editions, even though it has a lot. It takes a lot from previous editions. It's largely the price grids look about the same. So we didn't go too radical, but we've done so many great improvements. So, starting with what you did, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what viewers, readers are going to expect here?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because I know the book had been, we would sit there and work on pricing each year and it was a matter of having it updated. But it seemed to be before was always like bumping up against a deadline. We got to get it done, get it, and then I have an idea for something and it was always kind of like, that's maybe next year. And then, next year was always another deadline. And I'm excited about we're super excited about the fact that you're working on pricing. I can work on content, things I really actually enjoy doing. And when I go to coin shows, I have so many people come up and say, oh, I love reading your articles, reading about this or that. And now it's a chance to be able to share my expertise and experience with people through a venue like the Red Book. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what people think about it. And it's also, we didn't talk about it much, but it's a little bit of a morphing between Red Book and the Mega Red, because there was things in Mega Red it's like the proof coinage, the way you've broken them out. That was how we did that in Mega Red. I think that's super important to do it because I think when it comes back to it, John, it was where you and I both agree that the book needs to represent how people collect coins.
Right. I mean, and proof coins really aren't, as you know, collectors who collect the business strikes really aren't collecting the proofs and vice versa. They're completely different collector types. If we're lucky, we meet a collector who has interest in both, let's say in Barber series or seated, but usually a person who specializes in those series is not looking for mint state and proof. And I felt coming into the Red Book and the redesign that um, representing one grade of proofs wasn't really going to hit the target. So when we were looking at seated dimes, for example, and they had a single column for proof 63, and here we have proof 63 as your representative column, doesn't really make sense. It was much easier because we have this vast trove of pricing anyway from the Greysheet side to include multiple grades for the proof coinage. And now you can really see where those jump off points are. When some coins are much more common in proof 63, now you're going to see that proof gold, a lot of ways that people can now see this information in the Red Book. I'll even say proof Indian gold in proof 63 is crazy. There's just no such thing as proof
Right.
63 Indian gold. So lots of great stuff.
Yeah.
And having the new size is really helpful.
Yeah. Also, you're putting there information about, because most people that collect proof coins, not many people actually collect like a set of proof Morgans, but they want to own one and as a type coin. And you've also got now the new Red Book has information about what a cameo and a deep cameo would be worth. So again, that's kind of really how people collect that series. And that's important information that you don't have to be the most advanced collector to want to have that information.
So yeah, absolutely. And Jeff, one of the things that occurs to me is some of these proof Morgans, for example, in Cameo and Ultra Cameo almost don't exist. And and in proof $20 gold pieces, they only sort of exist in Cameo or Ultra Cameo. So all of these things are important. And the Red Book, while we haven't been able to incorporate things like Cameo and Ultra Cameo yet, these are on the future list. Part of the conversation I want to have today is what we've added for this year, but also how dynamic we are now going to be with the future editions of the Red Book, because we're not stopping in 26. It's not going to 27. Already, I have 15 ideas for what's going on, and I know Diana Plattner is really excited about the 27 edition.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the way we have a system now worked out. It's great that I can work on my creative. I was telling you the other day I had an idea for it. I can start working on that. And I think before the Red Book was kind of like an afterthought until it was like a deadline month. And then everyone just like all hands on deck. And I think now it needs to be more of a, holistically think about the whole business and what can we do leading up to it. So we create content and you just plug it in when it's time to have the book to go to the printer. So it won't be, I don't think the best quality what can happen under a super tight deadline because you're just trying to get the book done. And I think that also now that we have this, we made some changes, then we can, as you say, well, having these podcasts and it being out there, we'll get feedback from readers and other people who are buying the book and see what they would like to see in the next book. So we'd be responsive for a different instead of just doing it the way we always did it.
I agree. I'm really excited about it. I love the Red Book, and I hope that the readers of the 26th edition love it as much as you and I do. But I've already seen a couple things that I'll explain later in this podcast that we could have done even better. So without belaboring that point too much, we have the new book is 6x9. Doesn't sound like a lot, but I can tell you the book has a much different heft to it. We also went to a double spiral coil, which, before I got too heavily into the Red Book publishing side of things, I didn't realize the single coil had a way of cutting you. And one day I cut myself on a single coil and I wasn't happy about it. And I said, I can't have that anymore. Because the single coil has to have a loose end apparently, and the double does not. So it's better. It's going to last longer for people. We're also making a perfect bound edition, which is, the perfect binding is like the case binding of the other books that Whitman publishes. So we're getting rid of what's called the hidden spiral edition, and we're going to make a hardcover. And the hardcover is going to look with the graphics of the soft cover. It's not going to be that kind of big red blocks with the foil stamping. It's going to be beautiful with the same cover. And then, like I said, this perfect bound edition and the spiral. That's our 3 editions for this year, and maybe a limited, like a leatherette edition if there's some demand for that.
I've never asked you about it before now, but in the past they used to do commemorative editions for, like, let's say a 50th anniversary of a coin show or something like that. Will your new printing give you capacity to be able to do that if the occasion presents itself?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have an order for such a thing, but I know there's a Central States edition that I have on my bookshelf from some years ago. And we would love to support organizations that are interested. And it's not necessarily a monetary issue with us. It's just more of a how do we get books into collectors' hands issue. And if Central States says, we have 2,000 members and we would love to have that, or, if the A&A ever said something like that, we would love to do commemorative editions for people. That we're all about that.
I know people have those, and then they have them, signed by the different people at the events and things. So I thought I've been to a couple of, like I was in New Hampshire the other day. They had a 75th anniversary thing for their show and stuff. There probably are some big round numbers anniversaries coming up. It'll be interesting to see what we start thinking about for the 250th anniversary of the country. That would be definitely a special opportunity to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just sadly, because of the way the deadlines work in this particular project, the 26th edition really coincides with you'll have to help me with the pronunciation, the semi-sesquicentennial.
Semi-quincentennial.
Semi-quincentennial. And of course, the U.S. Mint probably hasn't finalized those designs, nor do I know if they'll share those designs with us even next year. I don't know what they'll do. So we're really hopeful that we can get some, design information, things like that, so we can get the word out into the 27th edition for sure.
That's another thing to talk about. You're talking about the Mint, with things. That was always a lot of pressure with page count, and I think having the book, and also I'm not sure when we'll get into this, but you really did a great job consolidating state quarters, which had expanded like 20 pages in the Red Book. And that was really like squeezing out a lot of things that we could do for coins that I consider more important. The Mint's coming out with so many different issues every year that there was a lot of talk in the past about, like, this is going to be basically a modern coin book with vintage coins as like it's kind of like a thing in the background. And we didn't really want that to happen. We want the classic coins to always have their due. And I think you've really done a great job of that. You're putting more emphasis on those and de-emphasizing a little bit of the modern coins. So I think that's maybe one of the things that collectors find the most appealing of the new book.
Well, there's 3 different areas that occurs. It occurs in statehood quarters and the modern quarter programs. And then there's also the modern dollar programs, like the innovation dollars, which overlap the Native American dollars. And there's, 5 issues a year or something like that. And then, of course, in modern commemoratives, it's just proliferating products. And the Red Book has a mission to include as many of the Mint-generated products as we can. We feel like that is the de facto resource. But I can't take credit for the design of that. I just sort of told the team, I said, look, the book can't go to 1,000 pages. So what we need to do is consolidate, and I got to give all credit to Matt Heller on who lays out the Red Book. He does an incredible job, and you can't believe the effort he puts into the book. He's the one who redesigned those pages, to all his credit.
Yeah,
So Matt, thank you. I mean, it's the modern commemoratives, we had weird inconsistencies there in the book. We had full page descriptions for commemoratives up to, I don't know, 2014, but then no descriptions after 2014 because they realized, oh my goodness, we're adding too many pages. But they kept all the old ones. So we really have consolidated a lot of that. And you know, I don't know that you need to read a whole page about the Mayflower commemorative issue. It's
right.
just not that relevant to
Yeah,
me.
another really good space saving thing that I've been pushing at for a long time was every coin would have a written like a fairly lengthy little thing about very fine. It's got a little bit of wear on the head. It's like every coin says that. So why say that 100 times in the book? I think that we've consolidated that, and that just frees up some of the stuff that was redundant. That'll free up information. The Red Book is valuable real estate, and the way you use it is very important. I think that you're really making some great progress in making highest and best use of what you've got.
Well, I'm excited like you are. Maybe we'll upset some people in the process of having make all these changes, and we're willing to take that risk. We're willing to hear back from the feedback. We can always go back and add things back in or take it out, see what people say. But let me refer to a few things that we've done in this edition. Feel free to jump in and expand on any of them, Jeff, as I go along. First of all, we added what's called the GSID number to every line. That's a benefit of a wider page. We added one column to each coin to say this is the Greysheet identification number. We could have just as easily used something like the Red Book ID, but the Greysheet ID is now becoming an industry standard. CAC Grading Service is using it on their holder. So we're just staying with this unique catalog number for everything we index. So that could be US coins, world coins, paper money. When you go to our website, the idea is you can look at the Red Book, and some items are very confusing. Like if you go to Colonials and there's 42 different New Jersey coppers, if you had the number, you could go straight to the website with it instead of hunting and pecking. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Redbook was one of the only collectible catalogs that I know of in the coin business, European or otherwise, that didn't have an identification number for every item.
You pointed that out and made me think about it because I have to say that the GSID number was probably one of the things that kind of, when I first was presented the pages, I was like, wow, that's going to take a little getting used to. That's because that's like, you look at it and like, is that, what is that number? And, so it takes a little bit. But once you kind of point out and I start thinking about it, like, Krause books. I mean, when you see a coin in an auction, it's got the Krause number on it. So everybody knows exactly. It's like we're talking a language. That's that coin, not a different coin in a different variety,
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff. Also, I mentioned with you too as I have quite a bit of history with these identification numbers because back 30 almost it's like 25 or 30 years ago, I was worked with John Danner to put together the auction records for coins, and we had to put in at the time we used PCGS numbers because when you amass a database, you have to have some way to sort those things, and it's just basically it's mission critical.
Mm-hmm.
I know for all the projects you've got going on now with the Greysheet and the different books that you're involved in, having one central number to always be making sure you're talking about the same coin. And if nothing else, also be able to sort the information
Yeah.
and into the database. And I learned a whole lot about that. I actually bought a copy of one of the books. This came out in January of 2000. So this is a 25-year-old book now. When it came
Mm-hmm.
out, it was groundbreaking. And it had like I actually had college students that would sit and take catalogs and input this database and then sort it all. And then you could look up a coin and see what like the last time an 1848 Cal gold piece sold. And I remember now why I did these books was because I needed the information because I was working on the Encyclopedia of Gold that Whitman did about that time period.
That was a great book.
I wanted to be able to have that. I wanted to be able to take this information when I did that coin to write up description to be able to have that info. So it's, that I think this number will, as it becomes the industry standard, everyone will just look at it and it'll be like, oh, this totally makes sense. So even if you get a little bit, that's weird at first, it just takes a little time to get used to it, but you'll see how valuable it is.
Yeah, and they're not in the way the page lays out. They're really not in the way. That's not. If you're looking up, and I just turned to a random page to Barber half dollars, and it's if you're looking up the value of an 1892 Barber half, it's you don't have to use that column, so it's not in the way. And because we don't have the proof column in that same price grid, then you actually have more prices than we've ever had for every series. We've got more pricing for the Red Book now than we've ever had. It's tied to what our Greysheet wholesale value, and we're now changing. We used to call it a CPG, the Collector Price Guide. We have renamed our quarterly price guide to the Red Book Quarterly. This is a little bit of cross marketing on our part, and we're very excited about the Red Book Quarterly. It's essentially the same layout on the inside, but it's up to date pricing because we know the Red Book is not going, the pricing stale by the time you get it. So now you subscribe to the Red Book Quarterly, or you go online to our website and you get this information in real time. And it's much all tied to this Greysheet ID we're talking about. It makes life a lot easier.
I
A lot
didn't
easier.
just thinking about it off, just as you're talking about that, it's really neat that your company now is offering like the full spectrum. If you're a whatever collector and you're happy with a yearly price guide, you've got a yearly price guide. If you want it quarterly, you've got quarterly. And if you want to dig deeper, you can become a subscriber and you can get, live, information. So it's neat that you're offering that information at any level that you feel like as a consumer that you want to have that data. So it's really, because before Red Book was just basically once a year, that was it.
That's right. Well, we know everyone's using their cell phones. If you walk around every coin show I now go to, I see a greater percentage of people using our app to see what the prices are for things.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, in real time, because you have to know gold can move $100 in a given day. You can't rely on old information that day. Our pricing online is always current and using the latest spot pricing. It really does matter. And for better or for worse, I have already moved the values of about, let's say, 250 coins manually that appear in the Red Book. And in some cases, I had a coin. It could be a colonial coin that we priced at $10,000 in MS63, and then somebody points it out to me. I get emails all the time. You know, please review this item, and I realize, well, that's a $15,000 coin. I'm not. It will change. I change it immediately, and I can do the same thing in reverse. If it's a $10,000 coin, but an auction comes out, they rarely trade. Now it's 6,000. I will make that change, and people know this about the Greysheet. This is why we are the most respected pricing guide in the industry. Is because we're not afraid to make changes. We will, we do break a few eggs along the way. But I'm sorry, whenever somebody challenges the pricing, this is a whole different podcast. I'll
Yeah.
say to somebody, why would you drop the price of a certain coin from 10,000 to 7,000 just because of one auction record? And I said, well, if you know that there's a hurricane coming tomorrow, am I supposed to pretend to you that it's going to be good weather so that you have better tourism? No, I'm going to tell you what we're going to tell you at the Greysheet is what we think things are worth. And we can always change them back if the market corrects us, but we're going to be aggressive about it.
Yeah, I think we should have a podcast just on pricing philosophy and how it works, because I did that for years too. And I am more acute of it, not as a writer, but as a dealer. And understanding pricing is like, I tell people that what I have to do for a living, I need to know what a coin's worth within 5%. It's kind of like 5 to 10% profit margins, or like that's where my range is. If you have a coin at 10,000 and I use it as a basis for buying a coin, and I found out one sold for 7,000, I wouldn't be real happy about that.
No.
So you have to provide the information. It's critical. And then if someone says, "Hey, that coin was ugly," well, that's now we have the technology. You can actually pull that photograph up and look at it, and you can justify that your nice coin's worth more than that. So it's out
That's
there.
right.
You just have to be able to use them.
Well, we know that bust haves, for example, can come a certain way, but if a coin is amazing, well, the price guide is irrelevant anyway. But you can say, look, the price guide is 10,000 for that coin, but my coin is amazing, and we all know that bust haves rarely come this nice, and I want 15,000 because my coin is special. But I always find, and I think it holds, that you both need to know a baseline number, right? If it's a horribly ugly $10,000 coin, well, then you say, but I'll give you a good deal today. It's 8,000. I just bought it cheap. I don't really think it's a very attractive coin. It's got a lot of adjustment marks or something, so we'll sell it cheap based on the $10,000 Greysheet or the Red Book or something. So again, we could go into the weeds, and we should go into the weeds
I
on
think that would be a
pricing.
great
But
into the weeds conversation, because I think it's a
yeah,
very complicated subject, and I think it's even one that you and I have to, it's a moving target, because
mm,
the price guys are really, to me, like a barometer of like greatflation, hordes showing up. So it's really definitely deserves a lot of examination, because people are having to make purchase decisions. I spend millions of dollars a year on coins based on information the Greysheet provides me. So it's like I'm relying on you doing a good job to make a
well,
living.
I try to be consistent. We try to be consistent with the pricing. So we may get it wrong and we fix it when we do, and somebody alerts us to that, but being consistent. And we generally, I think as a rule, you could put a button on and say, we mark to market, right? It's not, I hope, yes, a coin we thought was worth 10,000 just sold for 7, but we hope it's still worth 10. That's not, you and I have traded enough coins. We know that's not how that works. So we'll mark it to 7. We mark to market. And we're not cost averaging, unless I really think that was an unattractive example or an aberration. Like maybe it just fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we can do a whole podcast and we'll delve into it. But chain sense, and I'm sorry, PC, just to tell you this, but the coins are pitted, and Greysheet is 50,000 for a certain coin, let's say, and one can sell at auction for 25,000 in a regular holder. What am I supposed to do? I could look at the coin online and say, this is completely.
It's even more complicated, like, because some of the, like chain sense, PCGS changed their, MNGC, I'm sure, changed their philosophy. 30 years ago, they would take one with problems and would net grade it. Well, they don't do that anymore. So that's even more complicated. You can have one, with a little bit of corrosion that the XF, they call it very fine. And then, it is funny how you can, like you say, you can get in the weeds on every series, but that's what makes coin collecting so interesting. It's an endlessly complicated subject, so it makes it fun.
Yeah. And as a consumer, good consumer plug here, as a consumer, you should never spend a lot of money on coins like this kind of money we're talking about without working with an expert. You really need a numismatic expert in your corner, because it's too much to know. Jeff and I would point you towards the PNG, the Professional Numismatists Guild, pngdealers.org, and say, go find a dealer there, go to a coin show, meet some dealers, find someone you have good chemistry with, who's going to be with you for the duration of your collecting, or several people. And even when you're buying at auction at a very reputable house like Heritage or Stacks or great collections, it's very good to have advisors when you're spending real money. That's for sure. Yeah. So, but the Red Book and the Greysheet are here to give you some baseline ideas of what things should be worth. So if you're deciding, hey, I might collect Buffalo nickels or I might collect Shield nickels, what can I expect this whole set to cost me? Or how many coins are in the collection? This is what we want the Red Book to be helpful for.
I've always said that one of my proudest achievements with Red Book is that, working with it is a book that somebody who started collecting yesterday, will find useful. And if you've been collecting coins for 40 years, most people will have it on their desk. So there's not many books that have that broad of appeal, to go from total beginners. And I think now we're actually going to put even more effort on the people who have 30, 20, 30, 40 years experience. The book will be even more valuable. So I think the book's always been great for beginners, but also we're going to have more information for people who really are, have more expertise and experience. Right. I'm excited about that part.
Right. And that's a perfect segue to the point. And we mentioned this in podcast number 2, that we have changed the contributor to a sort of advisory board and supporter. So the people that you're going to see listed in the Red Book 26 advisory panel are advisors and supporters. At Heritage, for example, they supply hundreds of thousands of auction records to us. We need this data. That really makes them a huge supporter. They're also a marketing supporter of us. Wonderful people to work with. Same at Stacks Bowers. We need data. We need people's help. And this is who we're recognizing in the book, as well as these experts that you and I have talked about bringing into future podcasts, like a person like John Ager, who is a colonial specialist, that we really need his help when it comes to things like that. And one other thing that, as we were talking, that I remembered, and this is new to the book in the cataloging sense, is that we are for the first time honoring other catalog identifiers. We're going to be putting the Breen Gillio, the numbering system of Ron Gillio
this year.
Right. And it's pretty arcane stuff. I mean, not everybody cares about Cal Gold.
Right.
But my whole career, I thought one of the reasons not enough people care about Cal Gold is because it's not in the Red Book, and it's now in the Greysheet. And I want to make data available to collectors, because then it will improve the collector market. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think also in the past, that was the answer I got. Well, not many people collect those. I mean, it's like, I think that, all of territorial gold, really, the Red Book is kind of like the standard catalog. I mean, people, there's no other real special. Don Kagan's book but it's more like a coffee table, really in depth. If you just go to a coin show, someone offers you a territorial gold coin, they're going to pull out a Red Book and look at it. So even though there are only maybe 5 people that really care about the information, but having super accurate information on those coins is important. And I do think that As we get more feedback from people, we'll find out what series that they really want to get that information from and have that.
Right. I think we have over 1,000 listings of California Gold now, whereas we had summed them up into 8 listings in past editions.
Yeah.
So really excited about having done that. And then a few other things we've added to the book that I think are very meaningful is we added type coin charts. So now every section starts on its own page. For example, let's say nickels or dimes, half dimes. Each of those major categories has a type coin chart. And so while we did not price individually, let's say proof cameos, the type we do show what a value of a type coin is worth in that chart. So you can get an idea of the premium that these things come with, because ultra cameo coins, deep cameos, we call them,
Yeah.
have big premiums in some of these series. And it's
In
good to
most
know.
cases, that's how people collect type coins. So, or they collect them by type. And I mean, how many people have put together a set of seeded dimes in proof? It's not, but lots of people want to buy one. So
Right.
it's a big difference.
So we've also added full band Mercury dimes, full head Standing Liberty quarters, and full Bellline Franklin pricing to the book. And as I was preparing my notes for this podcast, I realized this is the kind of thing that you think, oh, I wish I could have fixed. I'd go back and fix this if I could. But what I didn't do well was get a picture of what a full band strike looks like, what a full head strike. I've been remiss in that in this edition, so that I already have the notes. Next edition, we're going to have really good pictures of what a full head versus a non-full head. But we do have the pricing. So the good news is we have the pricing.
Yeah.
We do have also QR codes that say scan here to learn more about full head quarters.
Yeah, those are complicated in their own right, because what makes a full head quarter is like, is it like a little dot in the ear? Is it also the full shield? I mean, that's its own little complicated thing, because, coin can be 90% of that and worth 10% of the value of another coin. So it's really fascinating. So you definitely need that information to explain it to people.
Yeah, but right. Full band Mercs. I remember years ago, Jason Carter and I had a 1945. That's like the key to the full band set in the later years. It's a coin that's worth $25 in MS65 as a non-full band. And as a full band, it's worth $20,000.
Right.
And so it never comes with a full band. And he and I tried 10 times. We kept resubmitting this coin. It was 99.9%.
So close.
It was full bands. It just had a mark. Like another coin had hit it.
Right.
So it had a little mark.
Someone made a bridge. There was a bridge on that.
It had a bridge. And, I am sure today it's in a full band holder, but we never accomplished it. Yeah. We after 20 submissions, we gave up.
They applaud your efforts.
I think we spent, $1,000 on grading fees to not succeed in that one. But anyway, we've added those. We did not yet add full step Jefferson nickels. This is one that really does require a lot of. I don't even personally understand always what a full step, 5 steps, 6
Someone's
steps.
got to tell me 5, 6.
Yes.
I'm sure some of the people listening today will be like, oh, I know exactly what that is. I don't really know. So you have to take a little deep dive on Jefferson nickels to understand what that even means.
Right. So you and I don't know is an incredible thing. I do believe, I'm told that Annex grading service does a really good job with them. That's what I'm told. The little Annex holders are, you see a full step nickels there, it's going to be a 6-stepper, because the graders there in the era that they were getting those kinds of submissions were really particular.
It's fun. Is also there's quite a few of them in there. They're fascinating about. It kind of goes back to where that information will be good going forward. But you can take a coin like I think it's 1964 Denver maybe, but it's worth like $1. But if you can find a full step one, it's worth like $5,000. I think once we had that kind of information, people will really like that from a cherry picking standpoint.
Full step nickels, right? They are incredibly rare in almost all years, but some years are, and of course now, let's say post 2000, I think the way they struck, they're almost always full step.
Yeah.
But if you go to the 60s, and I don't know, is the key like a 54S or something like that? It is virtually unknown with full steps, the Holy Grail, and that and I think that's true of the full bell Franklins. There's a couple of those mint set years that never come with full bell lines. And it's the same kind of strike, very subtle striking issue, but it matters.
Yeah, 53S is the king of that series.
The 53S, right. And we really hope that the grading services stay rigorous with their standards, because that's, it's no fun if they slip a little bit.
Right.
We did not add proof like and DMPL, deep mirror proof like Morgan's, to this issue. We could definitely do that for the next issue if we wanted to. I think that matters a lot, especially DMPL. PL falls into this kind of quasi middle ground of, is it interesting? But DMPL mortgages are really special. When you see one, how do I know when I see one? You'll know. You'll know what it is.
Yeah, we're
It's a
really lucky to be
DMPL.
able to do that too, because in the last year or two, there were a couple of major collections sold. So there's some really good
Mhm.
data points that are out there that
Yeah,
exist right now that are
highly
super auction.
desirable. Another area that is very important to the market. Nobody really assumes that an 1877 cent in MS65 brown is worth the same as the red brown is worth the same as the red. Uh, a conversation we could have for a very long time about that is because red copper always wants to be brown. Like it's going to go to the direction of brown. So the grading services have mostly taken away their guarantees in that regard, because if you store, you can have a beautifully red copper penny, but if you don't store it well, it can turn brown. And is that the grading services fault or
I
not?
mean, that goes back
They
to your
won't guarantee
problem
it.
with auction records. You'll see a red Lincoln penny sell for a third of Greysheet sometimes because it's developed spots or it's turned red brown. So how do you interpret that? You have to factor that in as seeing the coins because they don't guarantee that because they know they're going to change eventually.
Right. And in pricing, we want brown coins to be worth this price, red brown's here and red's there, right? But
Right.
what do you do? An MS62 red, let's say a half cent. You and I, without seeing the coin, we know there's spots on it. Why would a grader look at a coin that says, "Oh, it's red, but it's got spots all over it"? I would rather have a red brown
Yeah.
without spots.
Yeah.
But by nature, we sort of have to price those higher.
What you're talking about, John, the reason that is because the set registry creates that demand. And that, there's
Yeah.
people who collect. I don't know what
Oh,
the exact numbers are, but there's probably more people who do set registry for Lincolns. And the demand is because they want, they might not even care what the coin looks like, but it gives them points.
right.
That would be a great podcast to talk about.
You'll
That's
have to get a bigger advocate than me, because I have never been a fan of
an
the
advocate,
registry.
but it is important. It drives a lot of business in the
Yeah.
hobby. So it's a
No,
big,
I think David Hall, one of his greatest contributions to numismatics, on top of creating the modern grading services as we have them today,
yeah,
was also following it up with the registry program. I give him
yeah,
just a tremendous amount of credit. But I personally, I come from a world where I don't want everything to be competition. And I
yeah,
don't look, I can't afford the best collection of
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
And someone can come along who can afford anything but not know that much about coins. And it
yeah,
just creates a sort of
yeah,
otherness to it, as they say.
yeah.
But people love the registry.
Yeah.
It's just
They
not
like
me.
to
Not
compete.
I'm not the one, but I believe in it. I believe in collector programs,
Yeah.
just not the
I
competition.
think
Like
I think
mhm.
Deloitte Hansen told me that his goal of having the number one all-time set of coins was his primary driver for spending hundreds of millions of dollars. So
That's right.
that's what I've heard. So it
I
told me
heard
that.
that
So,
too.
yeah,
I've heard that too. And of course,
hundreds of
and I,
millions.
but there's all kinds of ways. And before the registry, we had, you and I shared a customer in Brad Hurst who also, but his whole thing was he just went through the pop report
Yeah,
and just said, I want one of everything that's in the PCGS pop report. And
yeah,
I remember I went to him one day, I said, well, listen, I have this seated dime. It's important. It's in the red book or whatever. And he says, well, it's not the pop report, right? No, it's not the pop report. And he goes, I don't want it
yeah, yeah.
then.
Yeah. People like have simple. He had a ambitious but simple goal.
That's
That's
right. And people who have a lot of money are generally pretty smart and accomplished, and they realize they don't change their goals. So it's like, hey, sorry, it's not the standard I set. And I believe Deloitte is, I'm sure, the same way with his standards. And good luck trying to change those standards.
yeah, that's it.
But they bring collectors to the hobby, which is also what the Red Book does. It brings collectors to the hobby. 200,000 copies of the Red Book sell every year. There's nothing close to that in this world. The, Nothing close, except maybe the Blue Book, which is 40,000 copies.
Yeah,
And then so
yeah,
this is the number one selling book in the world. It is really a cornerstone of our hobby. And we hope everyone likes the changes that we've made, and we're going to keep making and make it so that you want one every year.
you'll see
So,
incremental. When will this book be out for people to be able to buy it?
that's a good question. I'm so focused on the content.
Oh, I have this for
I
you. I want to buy that one.
this one, I will bring it to the fun show. It'll be the only copy at the fun show.
Ooh,
And so I will obviously, deliver it to you like the baby that it is for
yeah.
me. But I think it's the same release schedule as in the past. I don't think we'll have distribution copies till about April 1st.
Oh,
I
really?
think
Wow.
that's I think that's about the date. So
Okay.
yeah, so you're getting this podcast. We're trying to get everybody excited, but making 200,000 copies and printing this volume takes quite a bit of effort, and that's why it's not available yet. But we are here to talk about it on this podcast to get people interested in understanding of what we have in this new book. And I know I'm really excited about it.
That'd be fun. You
Yeah.
talk about the Red Book is like, the Red Book podcast too. I'm hoping it'll be a long-term thing that people want to watch, because I think it's a great opportunity for us to talk about topics in depth. The expertise level you and I have, also bringing experts that can add level. People love information. My main reason to get into publishing of books and coins for years ago wasn't how much money that I made doing it. It was the more information you give people, the more they'll spend on coins. It stimulates the hobby. It stimulates people's interest. And I think that if we have a book published, but you and I can talk about and explain something, like if someone was interested in a series and hear us talk about it, it might make it more thin to understand it. So I'm really excited for this platform to be able to take deep dives on subject that I don't think other people have the expertise to do. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, same here. And I appreciate that you take the time to sit with me on this. It's never easy to just take, you and I are both sort of more researchers by trade, and we like to dig into data, which means that we're also not the personalities who, at least me, who want to be speaking forward on cameras all the time. That's not my normal MO. So I really appreciate that you do this, and that we kind of push each other along to keep doing it. And next, you and I are going to be at the Fun Show in about 2 weeks. This is the end of, we're in late December of 2024. And so I look forward to seeing you at the Fun Show. And we're going to see some of these experts that we love talking to on the phone regularly, and maybe get some clips from them at the show. We'll show them the book and get some first reactions. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah.
And we'll include those in podcast number 4. So I'm teasing up number 4, and we'll try to get some experts. I really want to get JD, John Danrother, on our podcast. Again, same kind of thing. Doesn't love to chat, but I said, JD, we really need you. Really need you to talk to us.
I was explaining to you about when, like, I see the advisory now. It's kind of like, have you ever seen that show Cash Cab? It used to be out, and it's like you come up with something tough, but you always had to have you need to do your shout out. So what's your shout out? And JD's on my short list of shout out, when he's become like the real guru for in-depth stuff. And I always kid, it's funny, I can call John Danrother and I can ask him a question, and then half an hour later we're talking about something. I forgot what I even call him about, but he's talking about some in-depth thing, like channeling, something that it's amazing.
Yeah, there's some really great guys in this business that most people have never seen or necessarily heard of. Like Saul Teichman is a guy who's a Bible of information in his head about pattern coins. I called him one day. I said, somebody just asked me a question about Judd. He goes, well, if it doesn't weigh 7.3 grams, it's not real.
Right.
It's not the coin you think it is.
Yeah, he's clearly brilliant.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And John Kralovich was very helpful to me as I was working on the colonial issues in this edition, because I was quickly trying to say, we got to clean up some of these issues. And he knows every New Jersey number, every New Jersey colonial by Maris number. I don't know how many there are. And I said, well, which one has the double Coulter, running fox, kind of variety? And he said, well, that's Maris 217, and the last one sold 6 months ago, and before that we hadn't seen one for 23 years.
Yeah.
There's some brilliant people in this business. So bringing light to them and bringing them on this podcast can be very fun.
Yeah. And all you collectors, the more being able to tap into this knowledge is really valuable, because it can help you make or break a decision you might make in coins. And the more you learn about coins, the more successful you'd be as a collector. I can tell you that for a fact.
Right. So thank you for watching Red Book podcast number 3. If you've enjoyed it, we hope you subscribe to our channel so that you know when we publish future podcasts. And we're going to do lots of other kind of tangential information. We hope we're ambitious about doing that among the 4,000 other projects. Right. And, we'll come to you soon. So thanks again, and Happy New Year to everybody, and a prosperous and healthy New Year. See you, Jeff. Thanks again.
Take care.